Here at the Melanin Initiative, we simplify medical information into language you can understand. We create a safe space for you to ask your questions and share our nursing perspective. Today, we have an incredibly special guest, Nika Ford, a certified medical illustrator, one of the few Black professionals in the field. We're going to learn about what she does and how you can get into it too. If you're new here, welcome to the Melanin Initiative. I'm Dr. Kimberly Madison, a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner and one of your co-hosts here at the Melanin Initiative, along with Alicia and Geraldine, who send their love in their absence. We're a health literacy podcast. When we say health literacy, we're talking about your ability to obtain information, to understand that information, and then to use it to manage your health and advocate for others. The first mission here is that health literacy that we talk about, both for the public as well as our peers, to remind them to break down medical information. The second is to elevate the expertise of nurses, to bring awareness to the diverse career opportunities like we're going to do here today with Nika, and to let all of our peers know all the ways that they can leverage their expertise, both as clinicians and entrepreneurs. Remember, this show is for educational purposes only. If you think you might be experiencing a medical emergency, you seek medical attention and medical guidance from your healthcare provider. If you think you might be having a physical emergency, you should call 911. If you or someone you know might be having a mental health emergency, you should call 988 or text 741-741. If you haven't already, this is your chance to subscribe. Leave us a comment or two. Hit the like bell, share this, subscribe to the notifications so that every time we release a new video, you'll be notified immediately. And every time you interact with our platform, it lets the algorithm know that this information is important so that when people like you look for topics like this, we'll show up higher in the search results. Ladies and gentlemen, listeners of the Melanin Initiative, y'all know how we do over here. We don't just bring anyone on this mic. We bring change makers, the storytellers, and the ones reimagining the healthcare conversation in ways you've probably never seen or heard before. And today, let me tell you, I am beyond excited to introduce you to our guest, a true creative powerhouse, a visionary, blending art and science in ways that make you stop, stare, and say, now that's what healthcare visuals should look like. She's a certified medical illustrator, a designer, a speaker, and founder of Enlight Visuals, a medical and scientific visualization studio that's all about crafting accurate, inclusive, and impactful visuals for healthcare materials, medical journals, and patient education. Her work doesn't just live in textbooks, it lives where people need it most. She holds a BA in art from Georgia Southern and an MS in biomedical visualization from the University of Illinois at Chicago. And trust me, she's using those credentials to flip the script on how we see health information in communities of color, how we teach it, and how we advocate through visuals that represent everyone. From anatomical textbooks to science journals to digital platforms and speaking stages, she's telling stories that matter through images that reflect us. So get ready for the conversation about art, advocacy, and the power of seeing yourself in science. Pull up a seat, turn up the volume. Nika Ford is on the podcast. Welcome, Nika.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited. We met months ago now, actually maybe the end of
Yeah.
last year, and we've chatted quite a few times, and I was just really blown away at what you do, but like another way to be in medicine. Like that just really fascinates me when I hear how other people, whatever they do kind of aligns or is very adjacent to what we're doing. And what you do in particular is we wouldn't be able to learn and take care of patients without your input, but we just don't hear about it. And so I'm so delighted to be able to share your story, not only professionally, but also as an entrepreneur. That's a big part of our mission. And to let other people know, again, another way that they can take that education and make an impact in the world, as well as the next generation. Before we get into our case study, we want to get to know you just a little bit better. We're going to do our icebreaker, which we call 5 questions in 5 minutes. This is a chance to have fun. There's no wrong answer, okay?
Okay.
Okay, first question, what's the best thing that never happened to you?
Oh, the best thing that never happened to me. Oh, wow. I think that probably it's aligned with one of my goals for my business, and is to take medical illustration on the road. So that would just be a dream. I'm actually like a huge traveler. I love to travel. I've been traveling for years now, actually, and to be able to combine my work and what I do with travel would just be like a dream. So hopefully one day that'll come true.
Okay, so it's something that hasn't happened to you yet.
Yes.
Okay, and what's the next big thing you want to be a part of?
Um, I've think that I would like to do more collaborations. I would really like to start collaborating more with healthcare professionals and bringing art for the purpose of like inspiration and exploration into that space. I've also taught art before in the past as well, and I really enjoyed teaching art, like teaching painting. So that's something I would really like to do is kind of bring out more of an artistic side to science and medical professionals. I would love to collaborate with like doing art classes and things like that.
And we're going to get into that. And I can't wait till you tell your story about how you're working with a cardiologist. Yes, you heard that right. The illustrator is working with a cardiologist, maybe yours. What's the most important thing you've learned about communication?
The most important thing I've learned about communication through what I do, I would say, is that visual communication is a universal language. Everyone can understand images. And I think that part of the reason why medical illustration is so powerful is that you can really understand very complex science through visuals and things that normally would maybe very difficult to understand. I'm also a visual learner. I've been a visual learner since I was a kid. And like, for example, the IKEA instructions, you know, when you open them up, there's really no words. Like you have to understand how to put the couch together from just visuals. And so that just the whole concept of that and being able to bring that into my work, I think is very, very powerful. And I've learned that through the years studying art, just the power of like visual communication and how that helps with understanding, whether it's steps or whether it's like a concept, even things that are non-science related. It's very helpful.
That IKEA was a great example because who would have thought before that you could provide instructions with very minimal
Yeah.
words? Serena says, it's impossible until it happens.
Mhm.
What's something that you use every day to make your life easier?
Probably my laptop. Everything that I do, I would say, so the art I create, for example, it's digital art. I'm using Photoshop and Illustrator. Definitely, the power of technology has made what I do so much easier to be able to just send the client, you know, an illustration that I've created using like my tablet. So it's something I use every day. It's made the process a lot easier. And so, yeah.
And our last question, one of my favorites. What season are you in?
Um, I would say I'm in a season of that's a good question. I want to say growth, but also renewal. And I think that's because I've learned a lot over the years just about myself and through my journey. And I feel like I'm kind of at a process of sort of starting new things. So that's why I say renewal is like new beginnings. Also combined with growth. Like we are in spring right now, and so this is the time for like blooming and stuff. And you know the flowers are blooming. So I think that's also symbolic for me at least of sort of the season that I'm in as well right now too. It's kind of like starting new things, discovering myself personally, also business wise, and different aspects of my life.
Wonderful. Thank you for participating in our icebreaker. We're going to get into our case study, which at this point, this might be episode 5 that we've started the case studies, but this will be the first kind of non-patient one. So I'm really excited to see this play out. For our listeners who aren't familiar with case studies in medicine and nursing, we will have, you can be a case study. You can be Jane Smith. You're a 30-year-old female. You came in with abdominal pain, and we'll present that kind of picture, that patient's presentation, as an opportunity for learning. And we do that throughout the course of our education and training, just so that it puts some personalization, makes it more human than just reading paragraphs after paragraph. And I thought it would be a really great addition to the podcast to bring it alive because we are medical professionals. We tend to get a little technical. That's part of our mission, right? Is to break that down. And it's it's a journey for all of us to get to that point. And so I think the case study helps remind us that we're talking to a person and not just each other, which sometimes when I watch it back, I realize even I got caught up in talking to my peer and I forgot to talk to our audience. And I think that it'll make it's a great learning. And I think it'll help make our listeners, make it easier for some of these complex topics that we talk about or new topics. So today our case study is Alex. He's a college student interested in the intersection of art and science, but he's unsure whether to pursue a career in medicine, like his parents might be encouraging him, represents stability, respect, lots of opportunity, or explore medical illustration as a profession, something his parents might not be that familiar with, and they might not be as supportive. But Alex loves art. He's fascinated by the human body, and he's really curious about how medical illustrations impact healthcare. So let's start by diving into the basics. What exactly does a medical illustrator do? And how is this different from other artists?
Yeah, so a medical illustrator translates very complex topics in medicine or science into visuals using visual communication that makes it a lot easier to understand for different kinds of audiences. And that can look like surgical illustration, patient education, pharmaceutical advertising, illustrations used for medical education in the classroom. It's used for a lot of different uses.
Yeah, and we start that really as a student, right? Learning, because you learn about this patient who walks in the room with abdominal pain, right? Abdominal pain in someone who's 20 could be very different in someone who's 80, right?
Mhm.
And so when just reading paragraph after paragraph, it can all run together. So even as students, we take these little images, which I didn't even appreciate as much as who was making those until I met you. I appreciated them much as a student because it helps have that picture in your head. So
Mhm.
now when you're answering all those questions, it's not like, was that chapter 20 or 18? Was that the beginning? Like, you're going, but when you see that picture, I see the picture and I can answer the question. I feel confident. And I just never stopped to think about who was making those images. So
Yeah.
when I met you, it just took my whole appreciation to a whole nother level. And throughout our career, we continue to do that. And so you're super important to the profession. And you never appeared in any of my lectures, the fact
Mhm.
of your contributions to healthcare, even in, when we do like Black History Month and all the other Asian Month and Pacific
Mhm.
Islander Month, we never, Women's Health History Month, we never talk about that. And yeah, so I'm just so excited that we're doing this today. So we have our case study. We have Alex. He's trying to decide whether to pursue a career in medicine or medical illustration. He loves art and he's fascinated by the human body, but he's unsure how to blend the two passions. What would you say to him about the steps to get started?
I would say it depends on where he's at. Like, let's say he's just graduating high school. If you're just graduating high school, there are actually pre medical illustration undergrad programs. There are a few of those out there. There are different routes you can take into the field. I would say the earlier you know, the better, so that you can start preparing. So, for example, like you could minor in science and major in art, or vice versa. It's important to get a background in both. There are the medical illustration undergrad programs I mentioned, and then there are the graduate programs, which is the route that I took. I have a bachelor's in art, and then I actually took the science prerequisites as a post-bac student before going to graduate school. But I would say the most important thing is to like get the science and an art background combined in any kind of way you can, depending on where you are in your journey of school at the current moment.
Thank you. And I appreciate you going a little bit into the prerequisites. Are there any standard prerequisites? Like, is it like biology or anatomy
Mhm.
or maybe
Yeah.
even botany, right? What if, I mean,
Yeah, and now botany illustration is also a thing. There is a Guild of Natural Science Illustrators, which is the professional organization for people that do life science illustration specifically, not dealing with human anatomy, but all life science, botany and animals and things like that.
birds?
Yes, yeah. There's veterinary illustration,
Hmm.
Yeah. So, um, I would say so let's say someone wants to go to the graduate program, which is one of the most standard ways to get into the field. And from my experience, I think prepares you in the best way, because the grad programs are accredited. Well, there's 5 accredited in North America. They're
Mm.
very intensive. They're 2-year programs, and they really prepare you for pretty much everything you need to know profession wise going into the field. And they require specific science prerequisites. These prerequisites are actually similar to like prerequisite classes, which is why I had to take them as a post-bac student. So they overrode me and put me in the higher level science courses, because I didn't need to do a lot of the beginner general ones, because it wasn't necessary for my program specifically.
This post-bac was a medical illustrator post-bac?
No, I was just like a regular post-bac student. I didn't do a full degree or anything. I just took this very specific classes that I needed, like comparative anatomy, immunology, classes like that.
Oh, okay. And this is undergraduate courses?
This was I already completed my undergrad degree at this point, and it was before I went to grad school. So I was kind of in the middle during that time.
Welcome to Premier Endocrine and Wellness Clinic, a new way of endocrine care. My name is Dr. Peggy Amwakuhene. I'm a board-certified internist and endocrinologist. I am the founder and CEO of Premier Endocrine and Wellness Clinic, and I serve patients in Virginia, DC, Maryland, and beyond. So which conditions do I manage? Apart from the usual diabetes, which could be type 1 or type 2 or diabetes in pregnancy, I also deal with thyroid-related disorders, whether you have an underactive thyroid, overactive thyroid, you have thyroid nodules, or even thyroid cancer. I treat those as well. The other things I deal with, PCOS, people who have bone-related issues like osteoporosis, adrenal-related issues like low cortisol or too much cortisol. These are things I specialize in. So why choose Premier Endocrine and Wellness Clinic? This is currently a virtual practice, so you can receive care from the comfort of your home. We're currently not a network with insurance, but rates are affordable and it will not break the bank. There are no hidden fees and there are no membership fees. To make your appointment, follow the link below.
When you speak to your peers, is that something a lot of people tend to do?
Yeah, that's yeah, I have several peers that have gone that took that route because they were like they studied art in school. I also have peers that were the opposite, like they got a degree in science and then realized that they wanted to pursue medical illustration, so then they took art classes, which is a little bit different because you can get the art from, you know, doing your own practice at home, to be honest. Like let's say you have a degree in science or you're pre-med or something like that. You can like art is a self practice. You don't necessarily have to go and get a BFA degree in art to go into medical illustration. You could take some art classes, local art classes in your city. They have figure drawing classes in your city. Figure drawing is a really huge thing for medical illustration. They actually require you to have figure drawing experience before going into the program. So those are some of the things that they like to see that you know how to do well. So yeah, kind of depends where you're at, but
Wow.
the opposite of, you know, what you already have and that background knowledge.
How do you learn all this? Like
um
just these requirements in general and like the
mhm.
stick figure.
Yeah, so I learned all this from doing research on the graduate programs. I knew I wanted to get the graduate degree, like wanted the Master of Science, and so I did. Like I was reaching out to the programs. I asked them. I talked to directors specifically of the programs and asked them, you know, this is my situation. What should I do to prepare to get into the program? They also have it listed on their websites too. But it's really nice if you reach out, and because everyone has this, you know, different situation. You could have a very specific situation, so it's good to also talk to someone who's already, you know, they're a faculty member or something and ask their advice.
So you mentioned only five schools that are certified. So two
Mhm.
questions. Is it very competitive? And then does that mean there's schools that aren't certified?
Yeah, there are, I think there's a very small number of schools. So there's the five that are accredited. I'm not even sure if there's any graduate programs in North America that are not accredited. If there are, there may be only like one or two, but I'm not familiar with them. The undergrad programs, but those are pre medical and scientific illustration undergrad programs that kind of have you major and minor in like science and art, and it's they can help prepare you, but they're not necessary or required to do at all. um and they are extremely competitive. The graduate programs are competitive. They accept less than 20 students for each class, um so they're very small class sizes. Yeah.
It sounded like it. Any
Mhm.
tips on how someone can stand out?
Um, yeah, I would say um, with your portfolio review, you go through a portfolio review, making sure that you really understand light on form and how to draw from life. because this kind of work is so technical and accurate, they really look for those technical art skills. You don't have to have any background in medical illustration or drawing anatomy at all, actually. They actually suggest not to do that because they want to teach you those specific ways to go about that. They're more so looking at, do you generally just know how to draw what you see? Like, can you draw what you see accurately? So definitely, getting really, really good at technical art skills will help you stand out.
What do you think helped you?
I would say that because I've always been an artist since I was like a little kid. I would definitely say like my portfolio. I think that just being open, and asking questions. I'm like a very curious person naturally, so I ask like a lot of questions. Also think that helped me stand out also. And the field of medical illustration is just not diverse at all. So that's one of the things that they've been working on to change, to bring more diversity into the field. So I know, like for me, I was the only Black student in my class. So that's also something that that the field is working on, trying to bring more diversity and change that. So I know that helped me like stand out as an applicant also.
And we're going to get into that shortly too, in terms of the diversity in medicine, really, right? So when Alex graduates, what are some career opportunities that he can research when he, in terms of being a medical illustrator?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different routes you can take in medical illustration. There's medical animation. I'm an illustrator, so I do 2D illustrations, but I also do 3D models and interactivity. So medical illustrators are really at the forefront of new technology. So, he could go, Alex could go into something like medical illustration for VR and AR. There are companies that hire medical illustrators to create simulations to help train medical professionals using virtual reality. So there's a lot of cool stuff you could do if you're really into technology and things like that. There's also, like I mentioned before, there's pharmaceutical marketing, there's patient education. Medical illustrators can work at medical institutions, which is what I did. And you can work with bringing medical illustrations into the course material that medical students learn from. So working with faculty and things like that if you're at like a medical school. There's also MedLegal. There are medical illustrators who work to help win court cases. So they do create medical illustrations for the jury. And those are used to help win legal cases. So yeah, there's a veterinary illustration I mentioned as well.
I actually really love that you brought that up because I have a friend, like that parent, right, who's like pushing their kids to the very secure jobs, the ones that are very well known.
Mm-hmm.
Literally grew up in a house with artists. Like the mom is an artist, right? The kids have been drawing and taking pictures since they were 2. And she wants to be a vet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, studying and books haven't necessarily been her best friend through high school. Mm-hmm. So I hope I'm going to tell her to watch this show. And look, she can join these 2 loves and make a really, really big impact in healthcare.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you really have to show up and veterinarians, it's like, I want to take care of the puppies and the kittens, but they have to take care of all the animals and stick their hands in places that you can't see, and it might not be what you imagined. Yeah. Use your imagination and draw some illustrations. Like I just love this complete, and I think it's actually a great opportunity. Even though we're talking to Alec, who's a budding professional, I think for some of my peers who have been doing this maybe a decade or 2, who are kind of on that kind of burnt out phase of life, but grew up drawing and had to put it to the side because of their profession. And they hear this interview and think, oh my gosh, I can use my expertise in a different way, but also pursue my passions in a way that I haven't been able to in a really long time. And what you just, it's competitive, right? Yeah. But it's still a path that, they're kind of in the competitive nature. So I don't think that will hold them back. It's not like a huge, like, another 10 years of, this school and that school and this fellowship and this residency. So I'm hoping it inspires them as well. So you gave us some opportunities for career paths for Alex, and I love the flexibility. Do you think it's worth him considering the business side of things, like freelancing or setting up his own business?
Yeah, I do. I think it kind of depends on the person, because freelancing in this line of work definitely takes a lot of drive and ambition, because it's a small field. So a lot of your time is also spent educating people on why they would need your services. So if you're the kind of person that, can put yourself out there and network and, kind of go after it in that sort of way, then like absolutely, I have colleagues that went into freelancing straight out of grad school. I actually worked at an institution for almost 5 years out of medical school before I started my own business. I've been freelancing now for 2 years. But I really wanted to get experience working in the world of academia and medical education. So I did that first. But you can go straight into freelancing, definitely. If you have a business mind, you're in business, sure.
Yeah, more flexibility. Before I forget, do you want to shout out any of your institutions that you either work for or you went to school?
Yeah, so I went to UIC, which is University of Illinois at Chicago, which is one of the accredited programs that has a master's degree in biomedical visualization. It was a great program, awesome. I loved it. I learned so much there. And I also shout out Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, which is where I worked my first job. I worked with a small team. My boss and I were the only two medical illustrators there. We also had an instructional designer that we worked with, and a couple of people that worked in learning technology. And we all worked to help improve medical education side at the hospital. So,
Yeah, very fascinating. Shout out to our TMI alum, Dr. Kimberly Souffrant, a PhD in P who works in emergency medicine at Mount Sinai.
Oh, cool.
And you've mentioned medical school multiple times, and I'm just wondering if any of your peers work with nursing schools.
Not that I'm aware of, actually, but I think there would be opportunity there.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
all you mentioned, I mean, obviously we take care of the same patient, but even the simulation lab, we go through some too.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Yeah.
mentioned, since we're on the entrepreneurial side of it, you do a lot of education. Do you have like just this whole, just kind of the career itself, right? So instead of someone having to go to the school first, do you have like a master class that maybe can help educate the public?
I don't particularly have a master class, but what I'm actually working on doing is offering workshops to scientists or medical professionals that would like to learn some techniques in medical illustration. So it's like a prepackaged course that I have right now, but I work with people one-on-one, like live. So like you mentioned earlier, I've recently been working with a cardiologist who contacted me and said he wanted to learn how to do his own like just simple graphics of hearts for his papers that he was publishing. And so I did like a hour tutorial with him over how to use Illustrator, and basically showed him how to create like science graphics using Illustrator. And we're gonna do like multiple workshops like that until he's comfortable to do it on his own. So that's something I definitely offer, and I'm happy to work with people that want to learn visualization techniques.
I love it. I think even you know how we do like paint night, and you mentioned that you do those kind of things. I think like even for like our students, our nursing students, med students, our residents, fellows, interns, like even just doing a paint night, can they pick what the topic is? Like if they're like in derm, can they say, hey, we want a paint night centered around derm to
Yeah.
help us prepare for our boards?
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
And
That
I
sounds
mean,
like really fun.
it's just a fun thing. I just think my peers would enjoy being able to do that and also just have another skill, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So medical illustration, it's such a niche field. You've done amazing things to bring diversity to it. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the barriers for Black professionals in this space, and what can we do to encourage more diversity?
Yeah, so there's a huge lack of diversity in the field, just like historically has not been very diverse and inclusive. And so that's something that like a lot of people are actually working on, trying to increase diversity in medical illustration now. Association of Medical Illustrators has had a lot of initiatives to help bring in more diversity into the field. For example, two of my colleagues started the diversity committee in the Association of Medical Illustrators in 2016. And then I was the chair for 2 years, a couple years ago, for the diversity committee. So there are definitely things like that are improving in that area. I would say that there are still like a lot of barriers, just like just being, like one-on-one, that feeling of not really having a lot of community. The field of medical illustration is still like 1% Black. So like I mentioned before, I was the only Black student in my class. So I think that some of the barriers that come along with that in general are just a lack of mentors and teachers that look like you. And I think it's very important to have people that you look up to and mentor you or teach you that, that share the same experience. And I think that's just a result of a field just not being diverse, because if it was diverse, there would be more people matriculating into the space of leadership, So that's something that I think, I'm hoping will just improve over time. And the other thing is community. Community is like so important. And a lot of fields, I noticed they have like Black professional organizations like for that specific field. But because this field is so small, that has never existed. And so one of the things that I did was I started a Discord group for Black medical illustrators about a year ago now, maybe a year and a half ago. And it's been growing over time. And it's really been nice for us to just have a community with us. It's the only one that we really have right now. And so that's been really great. But I definitely am a huge proponent for community.
Me too. And I tell people, look, find community. And if you can't find one, create it like you did with Discord. I think actually our connection has started with dermatology. And I talk all the time about the lack of diversity in dermatology, nursing education specifically. When it comes to medical textbooks, like the actual book, what it's about, but the images is a huge one. And especially even the 3D images. I love all of that. Even the hands-on training model, I go down the list. The lack of diversity is there. But so I know my struggle for that, but you even said, hey, look, I'm here to help, but even I don't have pictures to train on. Yeah, I thought that was so like, oh my God, I never even thought about that.
Yeah, exactly. Like when I create illustration work, I have to have reference material for me to even know how to draw it. And when I was doing some derm illustrations, I just couldn't believe how difficult it was to find certain conditions, like photographs for me to use as an artist to help me learn. Because it's difficult sometimes if you don't have any references and you're just reading through text, like it's very important for us to have image references and photographs of how things look also. So I noticed that a huge deal of just when I was doing dermatology illustration specifically, the lack of diversity.
Hi, I'm Alicia from the Melanin Initiative podcast. Our mission is twofold. One, to simplify complex health information so you feel empowered to ask questions, educated on how to manage your health, and confident to navigate the healthcare system. And two, to elevate the expertise of nurses, spotlight the diverse career opportunities within the healthcare industry, and inform our peers how to leverage their expertise as clinicians and entrepreneurs. In less than 2 years, we've grown to over 50,000 views and 1,000 downloads, with an international audience spanning the US, Canada, the UK, Australia, and more. Our engaged listeners are professionals, entrepreneurs aged 25 to 44 who value authentic, impactful content. Want to connect with this dynamic audience? Advertise with us. Send in your 1-minute video ad and let's amplify your brand. Email tmi.melanin@gmail.com for rates and details. Let's work together.
Yeah, that struggle goes so far, right? So far down the line. You mentioned Discord, and I just want to make sure anyone listening knows what we're talking about. Can you explain what that is, and are there requirements to join?
Yeah, like the Discord server is kind of like a chat server where you have different groups. I guess that's like the best way to explain it. Be like Slack. I think it's maybe similar to Slack in a way. The group that I started is a Black medical illustrator group. So you can just be, someone who practices medical illustration. You don't have to be far along in your career. You can even be a student who, is in the process of becoming a medical illustrator. There's no like really hard requirements for it, other than the fact that, it's something that you're doing or training to do.
Oh, okay. And it's a little bit, is it just words, no images on Discord?
Oh, well, the Discord, yeah, it's like a chat. So we all just talk to each other. We send images, like we might send illustrations to kind of get feedback from each other. We'll send references to each other and things like that. But it's essentially like a chat server.
Okay. And what'd you say it was called again?
It's called Discord, and our group is called, Discord. And our group is called Black Medical Illustrators.
Oh, very, very simple.
Yes.
I always tell entrepreneurs, make it simple, easy for people to work with you. So you kind of mentioned a little bit about organizations. What organization or initiatives are helping to promote diversity? So you kind of talked about this. So actually, I want to talk to you about a little bit was you mentioned the mentors and community, and you've given us an idea for how we can join your community. But what about for people looking for a mentor? You already mentioned how few there are. So what are like 3 things that they can do to start?
I think so if someone is interested in actually joining the Association of Medical Illustrators, which is the professional organization for the field in the US, what they can do is they can join, become a member, and there's actually a mentor program within the organization. So I have a mentor through the organization, and you go through a process where you kind of do like a questionnaire, and then they connect you with somebody that they think would be a good fit. That's one way. Another way is by I would say like networking and reaching out to people that you look up to in the field. Maybe you admire their work or what they're doing, making a connection that way. I've mentored students that reached out to me, and they were like usually undergrad students that were interested in medical illustration, had really no idea how to go into it. And so they reached out to me over email and kind of asked for guidance. So I kind of mentored them through that process. So I noticed that a lot of people in this field, because it's so small, were very willing to kind of like extend a helping hand and, offer resources and talk to people. Like people in the medical illustration field are very friendly and welcoming because we're such a small community. So definitely like just, reaching out to people is a great way.
I find the same is true in the podcast world. It's kind of a big field, but I find that people are pretty willing to help each other out.
Yeah.
North America a few times. Does that mean that there's more across the sea?
There is, there's a couple of medical illustration programs, I think, that are also grad programs in Europe. And they also have their own professional association of medical illustrators in Europe. And there is a group in, I want to say I think it's Japan. I think there's one medical illustration organization over there as well. And that's it as far as I'm familiar with at this time.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's talk about lifestyle. What's the work environment like for a medical illustrator? Do you mostly work in an office, flexibility to work from home?
It depends on where you work. I think that there's probably some hybrid models. I've never personally experienced that. I mean, I was hybrid for a short period of time after COVID at the medical school, but they actually reverted back to full-time in person. And so when I moved down to Atlanta, actually, that was part of the reasons why I left and started my own company as well. Because I was moving and they were doing full-time remote. So it kind of depends on your situation and what your job situation is like. So when I worked at the medical school, my day-to-day was a lot different than it is now as a business owner. And when I worked at the medical school, I think I had a similar experience to other medical illustrators who work for an institution is that there's a lot of collaboration. Like I would work with faculty and, figure out what do they need to enhance student learning, and we work together to create stuff for the classroom learning. I work with my colleagues. Sometimes we do projects together. Maybe there were learning modules where we're adding illustrations. I also would meet with a lot of the surgeons and scientists who worked at the medical school who were writing papers. So we would meet in person, discuss their needs and things like that. So there was a lot more face-to-face collaboration, in-person collaboration when I was working there. Now as a business owner where I work from home, it's almost like the opposite of that as far as just like in-person collaboration, because everything I do is like online. Like I was mentioning, like how I use my laptop is probably like my most valuable asset right now. It's like all my client meetings are usually virtual because a lot of my clients don't even live in the same state as me. And so we do everything online. And so I would say that I'm always balancing multiple projects. In both scenarios, I've had usually on average anywhere from 3 to 6 projects at a time. That normally is how my day-to-day is like maybe working on a couple projects one day, and the next day I'm working on a different set of projects. So that's kind of I would say the part that's the same.
If Alex or any other student were interested in this career, especially after listening to this interview, this conversation, and they're sitting right in front of you or they're sending you an email, what's the biggest piece of advice that you would have for them?
I would say like be like really curious about science and anatomy, because like anything, when you have a passion for it, you enjoy it more. So definitely be curious about it. And also I would say like practicing art, like I mentioned before, it's very, very important in this field. And I can't stress that enough, how practicing your art skills will make such a huge difference for you. It helps you with efficiency of projects. It helps you be able to visually communicate better with your client and stuff. So those would be like my 2 pieces of advice.
And so how can people connect with you and support your work?
Yeah, so my company is called Enlight Visuals. And so my website is enlightvisuals.com. And I'm also on social media as the same thing. So that would be at Enlight_visuals on Instagram and Twitter.
And you know what? We'll have Angie, our producer, throw some images up. So after this is up, if you want to just email us some of your like ones you want to highlight, so people can get a range of your episode. And if you're listening, then we encourage you to come over to YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook so that you can see these images. And we'll have all her contact information in the description box as well, so that you can go directly to her website and connect with her online. And what about supporting your work? Do you have anything coming up?
So I was mentioning the workshops. That's a new offering that I'm doing now. So yeah, any healthcare professionals that want to learn some visualization techniques, I'm open to doing workshops with them. And one of the things I would like to do is the art classes I mentioned too. I don't have any coming up at this point. I probably will in October, which is like a yearly art class that I've been doing with this group called Black in Anatomy. But any other groups, organizations that would be interested in doing like a science, like fun art class, like a science topic or something like that, definitely reach out to me, and I would love to collaborate on something like that.
And you're joining us from Georgia, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you do would be so fun to have at a conference. We have so many medical conferences, and sometimes there's like events at the end of the day. And I just think this would be perfect, because not only does it help us with like education and figuring out how to connect with our students, help ourselves, help patients, a side hustle, but also just the using a different side of our brain and being able to leverage our expertise in other ways. I just think it's wonderful. I just love it.
Yeah, I think that everyone has that creative side, even if they haven't like tapped into it yet, and that's something that I think would be like so fun for scientists or medical professionals to dive into more, help, spark more ideas, or just kind of like see like what they could come up with. And painting is just one of those mediums to where if you like let it flow, there are happy accidents, there are things that happen, and you might realize that you actually are more skilled in it than you anticipated. So just the process of creating and painting with art is just something that I think that everyone could really explore and enjoy.
Yeah. Any final words for the audience before we close out?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, well, thank you for having me for sure. Like I really enjoyed this conversation. Yeah, I think that this awareness that we're bringing to medical illustration is really great, because it is one of those things that even when I was younger, I would do it all the time, but I never thought about the fact that someone does this and it's so closely related to the medical and science field. And it just kind of makes me think about how these two things, art and science or medicine, have seemed to be so separate or siloed, but they're really not. So I think that's like my kind of last point I wanted to make.
Yeah, that was a great point to end on, because that's like one of our first lectures is talking about the art and science of nursing. And I think we get the art part a lot, and there's the art of communication. We focus on that a lot. Visuals are a huge part of that, but you help to highlight another part of that art and how we can bring that to what we do. We want to thank you so much, Nika, for sharing your expertise and journey with us today. It's been such a pleasure learning about the fascinating world of medical illustration. I know our listeners were inspired by your story. So make sure you check out Nika's work and support her. All her contact information is below in the description box. You can email us your questions and show ideas at tmi.melanin@gmail.com. You still have time to message us, like, share, and subscribe to our content. Really go to Apple and Spotify podcasts. We ask that you leave us a 5-star review and share this information with all your friends. The more you engage with our platform, it shows the algorithm that this information is important, so that when people like you and Alex look for topics like this, we'll show up higher in the search results. At the time of this recording, we release new videos on Sundays at noon Eastern on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and we release the audio at 5 a.m. on all your favorite podcast apps, so that our night shift friends can be the first to get something and not the last. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.